Sounds like a huge task.
It's a massive amount of work, and we actually, now that we're 10 staff people, absolutely wouldn't be able to do it ourselves, which is why we rely on a huge base of volunteers.
Well, if somebody is interested in volunteering, what can they do? How do they volunteer?
How do they volunteer? Well, the first thing that they should do is go to our website, which is www.massequality.org. And on that website, we have several different sign-ups where people can sign up to participate in any of these volunteer opportunities with us, whether it be participating in a phone bank, coming up with us on one of these canvases up into Maine, or even joining us on Election Day. I'll even add that we've created a portion of our site where folks who are interested in volunteering but might not be able to make it to our office in downtown Boston, where they can actually participate in these phone banks from home using their computer. So the best thing to do is to go to our website, massequality.org, sign up for whichever volunteer opportunity suits you, and then one of our staff people will be in touch to train you, answer any questions, and get you involved.
Well, it's a worthwhile course, certainly.
Absolutely.
So what other things, or at least as far as marriage is concerned, what else is on the horizon?
Well, we are definitely in a position. We're also working with an organization in New Jersey called Garden State Equality, who is in a position to pass a marriage equality bill through the legislature by the end of this year.
Wow.
Exactly. We're expecting that the legislature will be in a place to pass that anywhere from the end of November to the end of December. And we're just a couple of votes away from having that margin that we need to pass that bill. So we're actually sending one of our field organizers to go work on the ground in New Jersey to help rally the support that we need to get the votes that we need to pass that bill.
And what about the governor in New Jersey? He's supportive?
We expect him to sign that bill into law, yes.
Oh, that's good.
Absolutely. It would be difficult to have a margin to override that veto, so we're happy to have that support.
That's great. And then New York, the governor does support it.
The governor does, but
it's the Senate.
Things are kind of held up in the Senate, yeah. We're actually not doing a lot of work with New York just because they're not really in a position right now where the ball can roll to pass a piece of legislation for marriage equality.
I understand they have this. It passes the Assembly, which is their House of Representatives.
Yep, exactly.
Called the State Assembly. And then Governor Patterson wants it, wants to sign it. He apparently had an uncle who helped raise him. His uncle and his boyfriend raised him, and he thought they did a good job helping to raise him. So he is very much in favor of this bill.
He absolutely is.
But apparently they just can't get it through the New York State Senate.
That is what the holdup is now.
Politics. And of course, whatever happens in Maine might have an effect on New Jersey and New York.
Absolutely. I mean, every state that is able to pass marriage equality, whether it be through the courts or through the legislature or even on the ballot, makes it that much easier for the next state to pass that marriage equality. I mean, Massachusetts was the first, and we saw it was a few years before the next state, before Connecticut was able to provide marriage equality. And then shortly after that, it was like they all started falling like dominoes. Now every state in New England has marriage equality except Rhode Island, provided that we can defeat this referendum fight in Maine. So yes, so what happens in Maine will definitely be affecting not only the other states in New England, but throughout the country as well.
Wow. You've been watching MLGBA Legal Lines. Legal Lines is brought to you by the Massachusetts Lesbian and Gay Bar Association. My name is Tim Lynch. I am your host on MLGBA Legal Lines, and we've been talking about mass equality here with Brian Brown. Now, you've mentioned Rhode Island. What's going on there? Because they're kind of a small state, and they're very conspicuous because they're surrounded by all these marriage equality states.
I know, exactly, right? So now that they're surrounded,
they are.
It is time for the last state in New England to pass marriage equality as well. So I know that Rhode Island has a history of introducing a bill that might provide marriage equality almost every year for maybe the past 10 years or so, with really no advancement. However, the political climate is changing, and we are working to introduce a bill in the new session, which begins in January, that would provide full marriage equality to all Rhode Islanders. Now, the problem is that the governor in Rhode Island, Governor Carcieri, is not supportive of marriage equality. So if we were able to introduce that bill and get it passed in the legislature, we expect that the governor would veto that bill. So we're operating under as if the governor were going to veto that bill so that we can have a veto-proof majority in the legislature.
Is that possible?
It's absolutely possible. It's going to be a lot of work. What we're doing, what Mass Equality is doing to help in that fight is really applying the same model that worked for us here in Massachusetts in terms of conveying personal stories to these legislators so that they really have the understanding to feel comfortable voting for a piece of legislation like this. So really putting legislators in contact with same-sex couples in their districts so that they can learn that gay people are just like everybody else in their districts.
And have an appreciation for the real-life consequences of what's going on.
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. So to answer your question, yes, it's possible, but there's a lot of work to be done between now and then for that to happen.
A lot going on. And then, of course, as I understand it, one of the major priorities of Mass Equality is the transgender bill here in Massachusetts.
Absolutely, absolutely. We are committed to making sure that this bill gets passed this year, and it's absolutely necessary that it is. It's been one of our focuses for the past year or so.
And this bill would do what?
So this bill would put into protections. What it does is it adds to all of our existing non-discrimination and hate crimes laws the phrase gender identity and gender expression. So when somebody goes to apply for a job, typically at the bottom of that application there'd be some sort of sentence that says we do not discriminate on the basis of sex, gender, age, race, so on and so forth. Currently in Massachusetts, there are no protections to protect people on the basis of gender identity or gender expression, meaning regardless of what my biological sex is, I should have the freedom and the right to express my gender however I feel. And this bill would put protections into place that would allow anybody to do so that somebody who is living their life as a woman, regardless of how they were born, is going to be able to do so and have the legal protections in place to keep their job, to find adequate housing, to have financial services, and so on and so forth.
And I think you were telling me stories about all these transgender people who were homeless at one
Absolutely.
time or another.
One of my organizers just the other day was talking about a canvas that she was doing to support this particular bill, and had mentioned that every single one of the trans-identifying volunteers that she had told their story about how they had been homeless at one point or another in their lives simply because these protections aren't in place. Because it's perfectly legal today for an employer to fire their employee if they decide to transition on the job. It's perfectly legal for a landlord to deny a lease to an openly transgender person, and there's absolutely no legal recourse that transgender person could take.
It's really shocking in Massachusetts.
Absolutely, a state like this,
state of the law,
especially considering that we've been at the forefront of civil rights for ages. I mean, we were the first state to have marriage equality, and when we look at something like transgender equality, we're actually far behind. There are 13 other states in the country that have these types of protections in place. Massachusetts isn't one of them.
Well, we're wrapping up here, but what are the prospects for the passage of this bill?
Well, we fully believe that this bill will be passed this year. We've been working with a coalition of progressive organizations, really being led by MTPC, the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition.
They're wonderful.
They're absolutely wonderful and been doing incredible work over the past few years. So working together with MTPC and the rest of these progressive organizations, we've been doing the same thing that we've always been doing in terms of reaching out to people in the community, having them tell their personal stories to their legislators, so that the legislators have a better understanding of everyone in their community and is able to take the votes that they need to.
Which is what our strength has always been, that human element.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Appreciate knowing what's going on with Mass Equality and all the latest in all these states around us. Well, you've been listening to MLGBA Legal Lines. Legal Lines is brought to you by the Massachusetts Lesbian and Gay Bar Association every third Wednesday of every month live. Tune in for the next session of Massachusetts Legal Lines. I'm Tim Lynch. I am your host. Thank you for joining us today.